Well, thank you, Mac. And hi, everyone. I know this is the very last session, so you've been with us and our amazing partners for the past few hours. Thank you for sticking around. I really can't wait to show you what Stanislas and I have in store for you. You're going to love honeytoken, well, or at least I hope so. So we've probably heard this in every other session today. Our attackers have grown smarter in the past few years. This is no news for you. They're contaminating the open source ecosystem, manipulating developers with phishing campaigns. I myself remember getting suspicious emails asking me to sign into my CircleCI account a few months ago, and it turned out this was not CircleCI sending it. So simply put, attackers are using every possible tactic to find a way in. And this is where it gets interesting, because once they're in, and I hope this has not happened to your organization previously, they will start looking for hard-coded secrets. And we're going to look at certain ways to detect those attackers as soon as they find hard-coded secrets in your environment. But first, let's take a look at a few examples of real-world attacks in which such scenarios have happened. So I don't know if you remember, but in January or late December, CircleCI was notified about suspicious GitHub OAuth activity on its accounts. This triggered an immediate investigation. They discovered that this customer's OAuth token had been compromised, but it wasn't just one customer. It was all of CircleCI's customers. So they started rotating those keys. And a few days later, they pieced together the whole attack. So they discovered that their attackers had deployed malware on one of their engineers' laptops. And this has allowed them to steal two-factor backed authentication cookies. And this helped them impersonate the engineer before gaining access to CircleCI's internal systems. So from there, they started roaming freely, getting access to customer environment variables, tokens, and keys. And it really shows the intention of going after your target's secrets. Now, another one here I really love is from Wiz. I don't know if you can still see my screen. Yes. So this one from Wiz is quite interesting, and I love coming back to this one whenever I have the chance. So in December, Wiz Research disclosed a supply chain vulnerability in IBM cloud databases for Postgres. Health keychain basically involves 3 exposed secrets and an overly permissive network access to the build servers. So they had a Postgres instance hosted on the IBM Cloud Databases service. And what they did was, run a first SQL injection attack. This has given them the ability to become a super user and elevate their privileges. And once they did that, they realized they were operating in a Kubernetes cluster, and they managed to get the secrets from the pod they were in. And once they pulled those secrets, they started exploring what was around there, and they saw that they have direct access to the container registry images of IBM. So they simply pulled all the images from this container registry and started scanning them for secrets with an open source tool, which is called Yelp Detect Secrets. And once they got their hands on those secrets that were in the container images manifests, they found FTP credentials, artifact repository credentials, but also the endpoint that points to the build servers. So this is a very interesting supply chain attack where the Wiz research team has shown that they can gain full control and compromise the build system here, and also inject malicious images that can then ripple down and be consumed by all IBM customers. And really, the key here is the 3 exposed secrets they came across, plus the different URLs and endpoints they managed to get from different areas. And now the last one we have is the Uber breach, where also a hard-coded secret was used again here. So this is a quite simple one where the attacker used social engineering to gain access to an employee's workstation. And from there, they infiltrated the Uber network. So they got VPN access, started scanning the infrastructure, saw there were some PowerShell scripts in the network share, and that PowerShell script contained one exposed secret, and just one, but probably the most dangerous one Uber exposed there. This was the admin credentials for their privileged access management system. So this system hosts all sorts of secrets and credentials for other tools that Uber is using internally. And from there, they managed to, move laterally, but this is not just lateral movement, it's a full organization-wide IT takeover, really, because they got access to the AWS accounts, Google Cloud Platform, all internal tools like Slack, security tools like Sentinel-1, and much, much more. So all of these scenarios, whether there were real incident and breaches in the case of Circle CI and Uber, or simply a disclosed vulnerability in the case of Wiz and IBM, really point to the importance of protecting the secrets, but also to the intention of attackers. So they really want to look for your secrets before deciding what their next move would be. So from this position, we can decide to turn the table on attackers. We know attackers are looking for our secrets, so maybe we can trick them to use some specific secrets that will trigger alerts, right? This could serve as an early warning system or a detection for our intruders. Now, first, when you want to secure your software delivery pipeline, of course, we must address key issues like securing developer access, preventing cloud misconfigurations, protecting your applications in real time, setting up all sorts of scanners in your CI/CD pipeline to make sure that you're catching the vulnerabilities before they go to production. But with all this, we can't really completely eliminate the risk. And this is very difficult. No security team in the world is able to say we're breach-proof because we've put all these controls in place. But still, you should put them to bring the risk to a minimum. Now, once you've done that, what we recommend doing is also adopt a posture where you're assuming a breach. It's already happened, and this comes in really handy because it's like you're now putting your detective hat on and you're being proactive. And here, intrusion detection can help us collect indicators of compromise and sniff out the intruders if they manage to find a way in. But this really adds an extra layer of security in your software delivery pipeline, and it's a final layer of defense that lets you know if anyone has managed to get in. The idea really behind intrusion detection is to make persistence in your software supply chain an impossible mission to achieve, because usually when attackers are in, they can be there for days, weeks, or months on average before being caught. And we don't want that to happen. We want to know as early as possible. One thing you could do here, are you still all seeing my screen? Because I see a question from an anonymous.
We see AWS access key.
Okay, so we're still live. So one solution here to finding uninvited guests is to use honey tokens or decoy secrets. So these don't provide access to any real resources or data. Instead, they will trigger alerts and reveal information about the attacker who's attempting to use them in case they start tampering with the key. And you'll be the first to know and find out. So here we're just showing an AWS key, which is an inactive honey token, so don't try pinging it. But honey tokens can come in all shapes and sizes. These could be database connection URLs, servers, or it could be even an entire Kubernetes cluster. It could be a honey infrastructure if you want. And one of the goals also behind honey tokens is not necessarily to slow down your adversaries. That's not the highest value you could get from honey tokens. The most valuable thing is really a sensor. And this quote from Andy Ellis, who's an ex-chief security officer at Akamai, really speaks to the value of honey tokens here. Now, at GitGuardian, we've been working super hard for the past 6 months to introduce this concept of honey tokens and intrusion detection to the software delivery pipeline and all the components that make it up. And a few months ago, we released our second product, which is GitGuardian Honey Token. So if you're familiar with GitGuardian, you probably know our first product, secrets detection. This one finds and eliminates secrets in your SDLC. The idea is to reduce risk, reduce your attack surface. But honeytoken complements the approach here and helps you lay traps within the same areas of your software delivery pipeline in order to detect intruders. So our take is you should be using both detecting your own secrets that give access to real resources and real data and real systems in order to reduce risk on that side of exposure, but also couple that with GitGuardian honeytoken for you to be the first to find out if someone is in your systems. And for that matter, we're helping you create and deploy AWS secrets, which again are Decoy secrets here. So you may ask, why use AWS secrets as honeytokens? Well, what we noticed is, first, they leak a lot, and second, the attackers love them. So when we ran our study on public GitHub last year and the previous one, we saw that for every 10,000 commits on GitHub, there are about 84 exposed AWS secrets. So they're ranking really high in the types of secrets that leak the most, but they're also easy to be found and detected by attackers, because attackers are using tools like GitLeaks, Trufflehog, Yelp Detect Secrets to find AWS secrets in different environments. Now, these AWS secrets can help you do two things. On the one hand, they can help you detect intrusion, but GitGuardian has also worked on another use case to help you detect leaked code on GitHub repositories. So you can deploy honeytokens in your private code base, self-hosted or managed DevOps tools. You can even deploy them on your developers' laptops and be alerted at the slightest hint of tampering. But you can also deploy them in your third-party accounts. Let's say a hosted service like GitHub Actions. You can inject a honeytoken and have it sit next to other secrets in that pipeline and see if GitHub Actions ever gets compromised, or if the service provider gets breached, then you will know that before it's even disclosed publicly. And now the last use case is detecting if your honeytoken has leaked on github.com. So this is something we can do because we monitor GitHub in real time. So we can look at all the commits that come to the public side of GitHub. And if we spot one of your honeytokens, we'll let you know. And this will probably alert you to a potential code leakage. Now, the entry points to your software supply chain can be multiple. And we saw this in the previous section on the real life scenarios and attacks. So you need to aim for extensive coverage. Here we're talking about using secrets and honeytokens just like you would be using secrets in a way that honeytokens will not raise your attacker's suspicion. So you want to lay them in your version control system. This is your source code. You want to have them in your CI/CD pipelines. But you also could put them in your secrets managers. This could fit in your HashiCorp Vault, for example. You could have those in your registries, and also productivity tools developers use day in, day out. So this is Jira, Confluence, or Slack. And to finish, before we get to show you the demo, I just want to walk you through the different steps that Stanislas will show in the GitGuardian workspace and product here. So basically, you start by creating a honeytoken, and then you deploy it in one of your sensitive assets. Again, the idea is to aim for an extensive coverage here. And then GitGuardian will be continuously monitoring all these honeytokens for you. We'll see if they get tampered with, if anyone tries to get access to them, and we'll let you know. And lastly, if an attacker trips on one of these honeytokens, well, we'll let you know. So you get notified. So you can kick off investigation. You can look at all the contextual data we're providing, so the IP address, the different logs and trails, etc., so that you can kick off your incident process, your incident response process, sorry. And if the alert is accurate, so you're able to contain your attacker very quickly, collect evidence, and then recover from this attack. And now I'm leaving the floor to Stanislas to show you the product in action. You're going to love this.
Thank you, Ziad, for this presentation. I'm going to share my screen. Ziad, if you can confirm that the screen is indeed visible. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So as Ziad mentioned, we're going to demo honeytokens, and we are in fact going to demo two different scenarios reflecting the values that this tool can bring to your organization. We're going to demo a first scenario of a public leak. Public leaks can happen by mistake. Most of the time, there are indeed mistakes and not willing leaks. So we're going to put ourselves in the shoes of a developer who makes mistakes and leaks a file containing credentials. We'll discuss this a bit more in a while, and we are going to showcase also how honeytokens can be used to detect an internal breach into your VCS. So to start off this demo, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use our honeytokens UI to create two honeytokens. I'm going to create a first honeytoken, as Ziad mentioned, as the moment the type of honeytokens that can be created is AWS keys. So I'm going to create a first honeytoken public leak demo. I can give a name to my token. I can write a short description here, and I can put some labels on my token. So potential use case for the labels could be associating a label to a particular location where you're going to place the honey token, because the honey tokens, it's quite valuable to place them into a lot of different systems. For systems like VCS, GitHub, GitLab, when you place them, if we are connected to the VCS already, we are going to be able to automatically detect the repository in which the token was placed. But for systems like Jira, Slack, if you place the tokens directly on developers' machines, you will need to track the location through the labels. So here I'm going to say, okay, location public repo, just for the demo, and I'm going to create my honey token. I get confirmation that the honey token has been created. I can directly here copy it to my clipboard, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to place this honey token into this file. This file contains basic code at the moment. It's a demo file, and it contains a tiny token at the end, and I'll explain a bit later what it does. If you can see it, it's here. It's a dummy key, of course, but it's here for a good reason. So I'm placing my honey token here into this Python file, placing myself in the shoes of a developer. I have this file which is covered by honey token. Now I'm going to commit my change, adding the honey token into the file, and I'm going to do a mistake. So at this stage, potentially the developer has been working on his local machine on this file. He could be either directly pushing this file into a public repository, or more likely he may switch a private repository by mistake to a public repository, accidentally exposing this file to the public internet on GitHub. So for the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to push, and I'm going to push to this repository. And you can see it's a public repository. So I'm going to refresh so we can catch my push. You can see there's a third commit that just appeared here. And we can see indeed on GitHub that the file containing my honey token has been uploaded. So the public leak just occurred. We have a file containing a honey token which was leaked and exposed publicly on public GitHub. This file contains some more code, and obviously as an organization you would be interested into knowing when this file containing your code is getting exposed on the public internet. That's what we're going to see in the rest of the demo. For the purpose of the second scenario, I'm going to create a second honey token. This time I'm going to name it honey token private repo demo. I'm going to state a label which says it's a private repo. I'm going to create this one, copy it. Again, I'm going to place it into another file, this time. So it's a fake Terraform file that contains a lot of stuff, and that is going to contain, in addition to the already existing secrets found within that file, this honey token. This file now, same here, I'm going to commit my changes, and I'm going to push it. And one thing I want to mention here, you've seen me committing tokens, honey tokens contained within the files using my command line. You can see the no secrets have been found here, which is because I'm using GG Shield to protect my code from accidentally leaking secrets through the use of our pre-commit hook. And here, because I'm using GitGuardian honey tokens created on my dashboard, GG Shield recognizes that these are honey tokens, not real secrets, and it doesn't bother me with those. So there's integration between the secrets detection capabilities of GitGuardian, of course, and our honey tokens capabilities. So my point here is I have made my commits. I'm going to push my changes into a repository, and this repository, it's this one. I'm going to show it to you. It's this one. It's a private repository, this time on github.com. And the idea behind this repository is that it represents your VCS. It's your private repositories as a whole. So I'm not going to be exposing this publicly, but the idea is that we're going to show what could happen if there's an internal breach of your private repository. So let's just double check. My push has succeeded, and I can see, if I go in the file, that the honey token was successfully added. Now, let's take a look quickly at the UI of honey token. To be able to showcase a bit more, I'm going to switch to another workspace where we've got quite a few more honey tokens created, and to explain to you how you can navigate this UI. So the interesting thing is that we try to make this as user-friendly as possible, so you can filter your token on token types. Of course, as I said, currently there's only the AWS tokens which are available. You can use the different labels that you've put in place to be able to search for particular honey tokens placed into particular locations. So you could also use those to mark for the different environments the honey tokens have been placed in. If you've got honey tokens that were only placed into test environments, you can look for them there. You can filter on the source of the honey tokens. So that's going to be available if the honey tokens are placed in repositories, and the repositories are connected to GitGuardian for secrets detection. Using this connection, we can find out where the honey tokens are placed and allow you to look specifically for the tokens found in a specific repository, allowing you to, look for a specific honey token or to check the health of repositories. You can filter per status of the token. Active means the token has been created, but you're in a good place if your token is active, because it means no one has tried to use it yet. Triggered means the token has been created, and not only has it been created, someone tried to access it. So if your token switches to triggered, that means you should start launching an investigation to understand, okay, was it triggered by mistake, or was it triggered because it was exposed publicly, or because it was leaked, because someone tried to access it? Is it someone internal? Is it someone from the company, or is it an external threat actor? You'll need to look into it at this stage. And the revoked option, the revoked status for tokens, is one you should use after you have been breached, after you've determined that, okay, there was a token that was triggered, we investigated, we determined that it was triggered for a good reason. What you're going to want to do, if that's the case, is that you're going to want to replace the honey token, which is currently in the file that was leaked or breached, by a new honey token, so that you know in the future if there's a new unauthorized access to this file. So you're going to revoke the previous honey token and rotate it with a new one, exactly like you need to rotate and revoke secret, except this time you're not going to put the honey token into a vault, of course. And you can also filter using tags. At the moment, the only tag we have is the publicly exposed tag, which is placed on honey tokens that we see on public GitHub. Let's switch back to our workspace where we did the demo. And there's one thing I wanted to show you as well. It's that thanks to the connection with your VCS, you can also have visibility on your perimeter and its status from a honey token point of view. Here, in front of you, created 2 honey tokens that I placed into repositories. I have 10 repositories within my demo workspace, and you can see that it's showing to me that I have currently a 20% coverage of my repositories with honey tokens. 2 sources where the honey tokens were placed properly, and 8 sources without honey tokens. I'm not going to be showing them to you, but thanks to this page, you can have an easy overview on which repositories are safe from a honey token point of view and which ones are not so safe because honey tokens were triggered. Here you can see on my 2 repositories, so there's this one which is a public repository and this one which is a private repository. My honey token placed in my private repo is safe. However, the public one has been triggered. So we're going to look into this, and I'm going to click on this. It's going to redirect me to the honey token UI, pre-filtered on the right repository. And there I can see indeed, okay, my token has been triggered. I have the publicly exposed tag. Let's investigate this. So I click on my token and I arrive on this details page for the honey token, where it gives me some information to help me investigate. I have the token name, of course, I have who created it, when, I have a reminder of the code of the token, the labels, the description, the source, which was detected automatically thanks to the connection with the VCS. And on the right side of the panel, we've got this status reminder. So here it tells me my honey token is indeed triggered. There has been 9 open events, and we're going to get the details of those very soon. The incident has been ongoing for 6 minutes, and I have the publicly exposed tag. An interesting thing is that if you click on the publicly exposed tag, it gets a link to you, and you can click on this to see where on the public internet this honey token has been found. So that's useful for investigation purpose. Now let's take a look at the events. What's interesting here is we have all the interactions that were done with the token visible there through the events. You can see they are ordered according to time, but of course I can change the order. And what you can see and what's interesting is that on these 9 events, the first ones who were on the crime scene were AWS. That is the case because from, I would say, a very pragmatic perspective, AWS had created, I would say, a partnership with GitHub to be among the first one whenever there's a new AWS key that leaks on public GitHub, because in the past there has been quite a few occurrences of AWS customers mistakenly leaking AWS keys on public GitHub, these keys being located by threat actors, the threat actors using the keys to for multiple, I would say, varied purposes, but there's quite a few stories around these keys being used for mining Bitcoin and resulting in huge bills for the AWS customers. So AWS took action and asked GitHub, okay, please warn us whenever you see an AWS key leaked on public GitHub. And the first thing AWS will do is this action. You can see there's an attach user policy. AWS takes the initiative and restricts the rights associated to that key to ensure that exploiting it is not going to be as easy as it could. Pretty good move from them, if you ask me. 4 minutes later, you can see the external requests starting to come in. And why the delay? Because you can see at 50, AWS was on the scene, but at that time, the token was not yet exposed on the public GitHub API. So AWS was there first, and it takes roughly 5 minutes for GitHub to push to their public API code that has been pushed. There's a small delay, and from the moment this delay goes through, the Honey token and any code that gets published publicly on GitHub is accessible for everyone. You can see here among the first ones on the scene where these 3 IP addresses with public monitoring, GitGuardian public monitoring tag attached to it. That's our public monitoring solution. So we see this token being available publicly, and that allows us to tag the Honey token with the publicly exposed tag. But we are not the only ones on the scene. You can see literally at the same time other IP addresses, and these do not belong to GitGuardian for these 3 different IP addresses taking an interest into the Honey token. You can see there are different user agents as well, and you can see some of these user agents are using TruffleHog to scan for credentials. So that means other people have been monitoring the activity on public GitHub, but we knew that. And those people are using credential scanners immediately as soon as the code is exposed publicly to look for those credentials. So at that stage, if we were a developer who had done a mistake and who had been leaking corporate credentials, hackers would have found them thanks to the automated use of these credential scanners and their monitoring of public GitHub. So good news, you were using GitGuardian Honey tokens, so you are warned of this, because in the UI of Honey tokens, of course, it's reflected, but we also trigger email alerts, and we can trigger custom webhook notifications that can go into your Slack, into any system that receives it, and warns you as fast as possible whenever there's a public exposure event happening. You can also see the timeline of the incident of the Honey token being triggered there. That gives you an overview of how fast things are going. Now let's take a look at our second scenario here. Our first scenario was this public exposure scenario. As I told you, when I leaked this file, at the bottom of the file, there was this token. It was added before, I placed it before, and the point is that this token is a fake GitHub token. The idea is that if it was a real token from your VCS, a threat actor who was monitoring public GitHub would have caught it using his credential scanner, and could then try to use it to access your internal VCS, your internal repositories, your code base. When that happens, one of the first things the attacker is going to do is to look for credentials inside the VCS. They are quite valuable to them. They will allow the attacker to move laterally into other systems. So they have a few options to do that. They can go through the repositories to which they gained access by hand, scan them using their eyes. That's going to take a while. Or they can use automated credential scanners like TruffleHog, like GitLeaks. And we're going to show you what happens when they do that. So as a reminder, the file that is in your internal VCS is that one. The token is there. It's still not exposed publicly. It's still private. The Honey token is not triggered. You can see it's still active and not triggered, but the attacker gained access to your repo. So what we're going to do, we're going to run truffle and use it to scan for secrets. Now truffle is currently scanning. It finished scanning. It found quite a few things inside this file, tons of different secrets, and you can see there's a green one there. And this means Truffle found a valid secret, or what it thinks is a valid secret. It verified it, and ding, 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 bingo, you found a validated AWS key. However, when doing so, the attacker also triggered the honey token, which was located into your private repo. You can see it here. This time it's my IP, the user agent trufflehog. You can see I did this call triggering the honey token. So that means at this stage, again, your security team can be made aware of the fact that this time your internal VCS, your internal repositories were breached and you have an attacker inside. At this stage, of course, we strongly recommend investigating the issue and potentially if you realize that, yes, this is an external attacker and it's not just a Dave who made a mistake, at this stage, you should probably take some remediation action depending on your company. That can be quite a lot of different processes, but it could be restricting access to the repositories, making sure the credentials within there are properly revoked. There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen at this stage. And that concludes the demo. I hope it was clear for you.